Have you ever felt stuck in your rank in Overwatch 2? Does it feel like no matter what you do, you're destined to have a 50% win rate? Sometimes it can feel nearly impossible to climb, even when you're trying your hardest to be a better player. In this video, we're going to go over a couple different techniques that I personally used to go from being a hard stuck Plat Diamond player to a consistent Masters or Grandmaster player. The first strategy that I employed was to switch up what I was doing if I lost 3 games in a row. Years ago, I was the type of player who would just keep queuing time and time again, even though I had lost the last 10 games in a row. I'd tell myself, well, you just can't win them all, and convince myself that I wasn't playing any worse than normal. The reality is that even those of you who believe you have an iron mental will be playing worse while on a losing streak. That's why after 3 losses in a row, I'll switch up what I'm doing. That doesn't mean you have to get off Overwatch entirely. The exact method really is up to you. Sometimes I'll queue a different role for a game or two, sometimes I'll go de-stress and quick play, and other times I will just go play something else or not play anything at all. This lets you get a much needed mental reset and make sure you aren't playing suboptimally, which will lead to unnecessary losses over time. Sometimes it's a good idea to take a break before you even get to the 3 loss threshold. If I have a particularly brutal loss that I think I should have won, I might not queue up and instead watch a short video to take my mind off it and then go again once I'm done with that. You just need to figure out a method that works for you instead of grinding out game after game when you're not playing well. Alright, taking a break is cool and all, but what about stuff you can do in game? What I believe to be one of the biggest contributions to my climb was the fact that I stopped focusing on what my teammates were doing and started focusing on what I was doing. It's easy to get caught up in the loop of losing a fight, blaming teammates, getting tilted, blaming the matchmaker, and then ultimately losing the game without realizing there's more we can do to win more fights. Do teammates feed their brains out sometimes? Yeah, they do. Do you occasionally get a Winston player who refuses to swap when playing into Hog, Bastion, and Reaper? Yeah, that can happen too. There are games that are truly unwinnable, but there are no games where you played perfectly and can't learn from your mistakes. The key is focusing on what you can control. Okay, so you've started taking breaks when necessary and stopped blaming your teammates for everything, but you still aren't climbing yet. Now comes the actual improving your gameplay part of this video. The number one way to improve, tried and true by many players, is simply watching your own replays. It's hard to explain to someone who's never done it before, but you can clearly see mistakes that you made while watching a replay that might be hard to spot mid-game. While playing, you're trying to keep track of cooldowns, ults, where the enemy is, where your team is, and so much more that it becomes easy to slip up and not realize you're making mistakes. When you watch the replay though, you only focus on what you were doing, and it becomes absurdly obvious what needs to be fixed. Let's use a hypothetical situation where you're playing Ryan and you and your team push into point. It can be any point, it doesn't really matter. You brawl around with the other team for a bit, you potentially even get a kill or block an ult, but eventually your HP gets low, you hold shield, the enemy converges on you and kills you. In game after you died, you typed, and I quote, "GG no heals," which in fact did not motivate your supports to heal you more. But when you watch that same fight back in the replay, you realize very quickly that your Ana was still walking back from spawn when you pushed in, and your warrior ran out of healing resource quickly since she was forced to solo heal you. You then make a mental note to check to see if your whole team is with you from now on when you push in. There's also a snowball effect that starts once you start watching your replays and identifying your mistakes. All of a sudden, you become able to recognize them in game. Oh, I pushed too far and my supports couldn't see me, that's why I died. Oh, I didn't bait out this Genji's deflect before I used my sleep, and that's why I died. Oh, I didn't realize their Zen had Transcendence, and that's why my ult got no value. You may not be able to correct it right away, but the more you can notice it, the sooner you can take action to prevent it from happening again. And once you fix these mistakes one by one, your average win rate will improve and you will start to climb. If you're lucky enough to have a friend who's better than you at the game, have them watch your replay and tell you what you can improve on. Sometimes it's easy to rationalize our own mistakes, but someone else won't have that same bias as you. If you don't have anyone who will watch your replay, good news, I will watch any and every replay that gets submitted to the correct channel in my Discord server, post a video telling you how you specifically can get better at Overwatch. As of this video, it's completely free and I can do them live with you in the call or recorded for you to watch at your convenience. I've coached individuals from Bronze to Grandmaster before, and I guarantee I can find something for you to work on no matter your skill level. Okay, now we're really getting somewhere. You're starting to climb, but there's still more you can do to get easy value in your games. Techniques number 4 and 5 are to start pressing tab more and to start ult tracking. For console players, pressing tab just shows the leaderboard. Now why might that be useful, you ask? Well, the leaderboard shows you the heroes the enemy's playing, and you might be surprised at just how much that can do for you. You can easily identify how you will need to play and note switches that happen before you see them in the game. The enemy switched from Ram to Hog? Good thing you realize that before he walks around the corner and hooks you. Their junk switched to a Widow? They lost the first fight on Hanzo Cass and switched to Mei Reaper. Things like these actually matter, and it's so easy to figure out before it comes back and bites you. The scoreboard also goes hand in hand with ult tracking. For those who don't know what ult tracking is, you basically just keep track of which ultimates the enemy will have for the next fight so that you can be more prepared to deal with them. At the most basic level, you can assume that if the enemy hasn't used their ult in the most recent fight, they will either be close to ult or they will have it. That's a huge oversimplification, but it works as an introduction to someone who's never tracked before. If you see a character swap on the enemy team, you know they will have 15% to ult or less, which is another tool used to track, and yet another reason to keep checking the scoreboard. The idea behind ult tracking and checking the leaderboard comes from the fact that the more information you have, the better you'll be able to deal with whatever comes up. If you know that they have Bob next fight, you can try and save your sleep for it. If you know that they have Nanoblade, you can save your graph for it. The list goes on and on and on. Doing small things like this will add up and make you a better player overall. At the end of the day, improvement's a long-term commitment. The best players didn't become the best overnight, they did it over months or years of grinding. The techniques listed in this video aren't designed to make you the best player instantly, but instead to kickstart your journey to the top. And that's all for today. If you got value out of this video, I would appreciate it if you gave it a like. I hope you enjoyed, but more importantly, I hope you learned something today. See you in the next one.